Last week, at the beginning of my sermon, you humored me as we talked a little bit about some Texas history, and we talked about the Alamo and my impressions of it and my wife's impressions of it as she saw it the first time. And so we had some good conversations with many of you afterwards, some of you secretly admitting that you too were underwhelmed when you first saw the majestic shrine of the Alamo. Humor me a little bit more today. I've got a little bit more Texas history to tell you as we start today. There is a state highway that runs on the northwest part of Houston, Farm to Market 2920. It runs from Waller all the way over to I-45. And there's a stretch of that Farm to Market road that is in Tomball. And just a stretch of road, like on one corner, there's a Jack in the Box, and on the other corner, there's a McDonald's. But along the south side of that stretch of road, there's a tall, twisted oak tree. It's across the street from a manufacturing supply company. And the tree is called the Which Way Tree. And it played a pivotal role in the history of our state. It stood at a fork in the road about 190 years ago, a fork in the road where decisions get made. You see, at that time, Sam Houston and the Texan Army were running away. After the fall of the Alamo, they were trying to get away from the Mexican army as quickly as they could, burning things behind them, on the run, trying to figure out their next move. And so on April 16th, they arrived at this tree. It was then in a place called New Kentucky. And the tree had branches pointing in two directions, literally a fork in the road. In one direction, heading mainly northward, northeast, to the Trinity and Sabine rivers. That would have meant safety for Houston and his men. The other branches were pointing more southward to what was then called Harrisburg, what we know as Houston. Those were pointing toward another confrontation and to war. And I can just picture General Houston standing there looking at these branches while his men regrouped and figuring out their next move. He's weighing his options, struggling to make a decision, and he's human like the rest of us, so thinking back and forth about where he should go and where he should take his army. And the legend has it that Houston looked up at those diverging branches and made his decision. Sometimes, holy ground is that because it's somewhere you have to make a decision. It's not a comfortable place, but you can't stand there forever. And so today in this Holy Ground series, we're going to visit the city of Shechem. You may know some things that happen at this city in the Old Testament. Abraham builds an altar there. It's where God's promise to his people really begins. Jacob returns there, where the promise is reaffirmed. Joseph goes there to look for his brothers. That's where the journey toward Egypt and Exodus really starts. Shechem is this place where promises begin, and it's also where faith must be chosen again and again. And we find ourselves at Shechem at the end of the book of Joshua, after the conquest, after the land has been given to God's people. Some of the victories they had to get that land were pretty normal. Some of them were quite strange, marching around Jericho and blowing trumpets, or Gideon with a small army smashing glasses around the place. And they've been renewing the covenant in small ways here and there, reaffirming their commitment to God. And then we get all this detail about how to divide the land up. If you didn't stop your yearly Bible reading plan in Leviticus, you might stop it in these chapters of Joshua. But at the end of the book, it's time for Joshua to give his parting words. What will he say to the people he has led to keep them faithful to God? So he calls them together and he tells them their history, what they have experienced, what their ancestors experienced. He reminds them that God called Abraham and led him to a new place, gave him a big family. He reminds them that God used Moses and Aaron to bring the people out of captivity. He reminds them that God cared for them in the wilderness while they wandered around. And he reminds them that most recently God has given them all victories against many different kinds of kings. And he's given them the new land that he promised. And this then is what Joshua says to the people as he calls them to faithfulness in this new era. He reminds them in the voice of God, I gave you a land on which you did not toil, and cities you did not build, and you live in them and eat from vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. You didn't do any of that. God did it. God did it. God did it. And if that's the story of these people, isn't that enough? Isn't it obvious who's taking care of them? Isn't it clear that they should stay faithful to him? You would think, and yet Joshua has to remind them. He goes on to say, now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. It's a clear directive. Based on everything God has done, serve him. Why would you not? Throw away these other gods. What have they done for you? But hey, Joshua says, hey, if that's not what you want to do, then make a choice. You don't get to not make a choice. You pick. You want something else? Go for it. Let me know how that works out for you. But as for me and mine, we'll serve Yahweh, our God. The people respond and they say, we will throw away our gods and we will serve the Lord. Far be it from us to forsake the one who's done all this for us. We will stay faithful. And Joshua says, you can't do it. You're going to stray. You can't stay faithful. I know what's going to happen. God's holy. You're not. You'll forsake him. And the people say, no, really, we mean it. We'll serve God. And Joshua says, okay, you heard what you committed to. You are witnesses against yourself. You said it right here. Now you're going to have to hold yourselves to it. And the people say again, we will serve God and we will obey him. And now it's time to mark the decision. On that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people, and there at Shechem, he reaffirmed for them decrees and laws. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone and set it up near the oak tree, near the holy place of the Lord. See, he said to all the people, this stone will be a witness against us. It has heard the words the Lord had said to us. It will be a witness against you if you are untrue to your God. So what's he do at the end of the ceremony? He puts a stone under an oak tree in Shechem. Same kind of tree, same kind of choice moment, because maybe oak trees tend to grow where decisions have been made. See, covenant is not just an emotion, it's a memory and it's a commitment. We don't inherit our faith like our eye color. You don't look at your family tree and say, well, my grandparents believed, so I guess I'm covered. Every generation has to walk to the altar themselves. Every generation has to carry the covenant themselves. That's what Joshua is saying here. He's not assuming anything. He's saying, you saw the walls of Jericho fall. You walked across that sea on dry ground. So now what? What will you choose? And friends, you and I have found ourselves at Shechem many times. In our careers, we come to forks in the road. What will I do? Will I do what's easy or what's right? Especially when doing what's right might cost me. Like when you discover your team is inflating numbers on a report and you know speaking up will make you the odd one out. What will you choose that day? Or as parents, will we lead with fear and try to control everything? Or will we lead with grace, trusting God with what we can't fix? Like when your kid or teen pushes back on everything you've taught them, rejects your values, and you have to decide, am I going to shame them into compliance or keep showing up with love and boundaries? In our marriages, will we stay committed when it's not exciting, not romantic, and just hard? Will we show up again when we'd rather withdraw? Like when our spouse shuts down emotionally, and instead of retreating, we choose to ask again, how are we doing? Even when we're tired of asking. Maybe some of us grew up in church, and maybe you're just now returning, and at some point you have to decide, is this mine or is it just borrowed? Like you're sitting in a pew wondering why you're here again and again, and you realize that faith has to become more than just a habit to hold you up. These are our Shechem moments. It's moments where the path forks, where comfort and commitment are not going to walk the same direction. It's where you can't just stand at the tree. You have to pick a path. I told you earlier about a tree, not just any tree, but a gnarled, twisted oak outside Houston, Texas. It wasn't just any place. It's a place where a young Sam Houston, still rough-edged and restless, stood and made a decision. He chose risk over complacency. He chose victory over retreat. It was a turning point, and the people remembered it. They called it the Which Way Tree, because it's where the path forked. And this is what's striking to me. That tree, that old oak in Texas, stood as a turning point. And that oak at Shechem, just as old, just as rooted, stood at another turning point. Both trees heard some words that shaped the future. Both became markers, not because they were magical, but because someone stood beneath them and chose a path. That's what Shechem is. It's a sacred place, not because the ground glows, but because decisions were made there. Real, weighty decisions. And I wonder, what if your kitchen table is a Shechem? What if your quiet time tomorrow morning is a Shechem? What if the conversation you've been putting off, the apology you need to make, the job change you're weighing, what if that is your which way tree? Joshua set up a stone under a tree that day, not as just a souvenir, but as a witness. Something that would say, you stood here and you said some words and you made a choice. May we become people who stand on those holy ground places and choose the Lord again and again and again. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. So I'll ask you, what tree are you standing under? Don't just stand there. Pick a path. Let's stand.